Hello, my name is Catarina Reis, and I'm here to speak to you about the Agile Manifesto. This is the software engineering module. First, we have to make sure that we understand what was called the crisis in the software industry. So, around 2000, the year 2000, a couple of developers gathered and were quite concerned about the way that the business regarding the development of software products was being achieved. So let's take a look at what in a very well-known picture that you can see in the web. Let's try to understand what actually was the crisis that the software industry was facing. So if you look at the first picture, you will see a design, a picture of how the customer explained its desires. Then we can see how the project leader actually understood what the customer explained. And this was his representation. Then we brought the actual information to the designer, and the designer, according to the information that he understood, designed the product accordingly. Then the programmer grabbed the entire information and wrote the software product. Then the business people sold what they were trying to achieve as something very high-fashioned and with a lot of glitter. Then the project was, as you can see in the next picture, very low on documentation. So actually there was an open space and some clouds where the documents should be present. This is how the operations team actually installed what was given to them. This was the bills to the customer. So it looks like a roller coaster because actually the customer wasn't aware when was he getting asked to pay or not. This was how the help desk supported what seems to be a non-existent product. And finally, we were able to see what the customer really needed. So, what is the crisis? Well, as you can see, the customer only needed a simple swing. And right from the start, the customer, while explaining what he wanted, there was a problem with the communication. And in the software industry, this is rather relevant because when the customer explains something, they are actually stating their requirements for the software product. And if you don't talk back and if you don't get feedback from your customer, so since the first picture up until the last one, it could take 1 year, 2 years before you actually present to the customer to the end result, you don't actually know exactly what the customer really needs, what the customer really wants, and you have lost a lot of time, a lot of resources were employed, the customer was billed for something that he doesn't want. And this was actually the representation of what typically happens in a waterfall project. So in a waterfall project, you have a Gantt chart detailed at the beginning of the project with every requirement explicitly stated and sometime mapped into each task. So at the first day of the project, you already know when will you deliver and what. Basically, this isn't what actually happens in software. And around 2000, so 20 years ago, a group of developers have already discovered that this was a problem that needed to be tackled, because you actually, if you get to speak to the customer more frequently, more often, you will get feedback, and you will discover what the customer really needs early on the development phase. So this is when a couple of developers that were all trying to solve the same problem, this crisis in the software industry, gathered. They gathered for a ski weekend on a ski lodge, and they actually put all their ideas into a common ground. So in 2001, representatives of feature-driven development, Crystal, Scrum, XP, all the agile approaches that were already under development at that stage gathered at Utah at a ski resort, and they looked for a common ground where they could all agree on something. This is what is called the Agile Manifesto, and it was initially signed by 17 participants at this weekend, and they all agreed on what is stated in the manifesto. And basically, what is stated in the development is something that we should make very attention to. The idea of all those different approaches under the same agile umbrella was to always uncover better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. And the idea of all the different approaches that were already established and that were already being used was to actually value more individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration, responding to change over processes and tools, comprehensive documentation, contract negotiation, and following a plan. So basically, in the Agile Manifesto, while there is value in the items on the right, the idea is to actually promote and value more the items on the left. So people write software. You have individuals, and individuals need to work as a team, and that team also includes a client. So individuals, their interactions, and customer collaboration are all interrelated. Working software is better than having comprehensive documentation. Having something that actually works, it's better for the developers, for the testers, and for the customer. Responding to change is something that we nowadays have come to consider as normal. But actually, when considering a traditional waterfall approach, responding to change usually is surrounded by a lot of risk. So here in agile approaches, the idea is to actually be able to respond to change in a rather welcoming way. So change happens, people change their mind, priorities change, and customers might even discover along the way what they actually need and request for new features for the software. So this is basically what is stated in the Agile Manifesto.